with the pump fake and a one dribble inside to the long two, and he makes it. That's been his game his whole career. But look at him smiling. We go, my bad. The long two.
Welcome to another episode of The Long Two. I am Pete Rogers. He is Natty Wallach. And we are a Carmelo Anthony podcast that occasionally talks fantasy basketball. Natty, how are you doing this week?
I'm okay, buddy. How are you?
I am equally as okay. We were talking before we hit record. We're both just feeling kind of tired. And I will say, yours truly got my second vax this week. I know you just got your first dose of vax, so that obviously for me played into it. I just, it knocks you out for a couple of days. It knocked me out for about 24 or 30 hours, but coming out of that and feeling better, feeling safer, and that's ultimately what's important.
Hey man, you did your part. Everybody should get vaxxed so we can, continue to improve the situation. So it's good that you got number 2. I'm a little jealous. I'll get mine next month.
Good.
But yeah, everybody
still plenty of time before, things really get nice, and we're end of May, early June, where, the summertime really begins.
Be vaxxed up and ready for the playoffs.
Ready to thrive. Before we talk waiver wire ads, I do want to just quickly, I wanted to get your thoughts on some MVP odds, Natty. Because right now, Nikola Jokic, what I just to combine those guys.
That would be
player,
incredible.
That player would be unstoppable. Nikola Jokic would be a beast unto of himself. But Nikola Jokic, these odds are via DraftKings. He's at minus 400 right now to win MVP. Everyone thinks he's the favorite. That's, I don't see why you would argue against that. Well, my point is though, Joel Embiid number 2 plus 325, Giannis plus 2,000, James Harden plus 2,500, Steph Curry number 5 on this list. Does that not seem low to you?
He should be higher than Harden, I believe.
Yeah, at the very least.
Yeah, I think Harden has missed enough that he should be out of the top 5. I think LBJ should still be there in the 5th spot. But yeah, I mean, before the season, we said for the Warriors to do well, they were probably going to need an MVP-esque season from Steph, and that's what he's given them. And they are 500 and in the playoffs today.
Right. They're currently at the 10th seed right now, so they'd be in the play-in tournament. And I mean, it's the fact that like the MVP is all about narratives, and the fact that Steph has just been like playing astronomically through the month of April is I feel like if he keeps that up and the Warriors if they can cement an actual playoff bid, but if they're still in that play-in tournament, like he's, playing at this level, he can win a game. You get into the playoffs, you maybe have a mildly exciting series. I just thought the plus 3,000 for Steph Curry to win MVP was an interesting line.
He's having one of his best seasons, and this seems like prime Curry. And he has to do it in order for the Warriors to win. So this is a lot of, it's not desperation, but he's playing at 110%, like we've seen him play before. And that team without him is nothing. No disrespect to the other players, including Draymond and Maple Jordan, but this team would be
garbage. This team would be rivaling like the T-Wolves for record in the West without Steph.
And they actually have a top 10 defensive rating as a team, I believe.
They do.
They're 16 and 14 in the conference, which sort of suggests to me that they're better than we think. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to have to play a 1-game playoff game against them. And if it's Blazers versus Dubs, that's going to be absolutely incredibly awesome.
That's
Dame versus Steph.
Yeah.
So anytime you have Draymond and Steph, I think you have to consider the team dangerous. So it's but they don't have a good enough seed in the West for Steph to actually win, I don't think. So I still think it comes down to Joker and Embiid.
Yeah, no, I think Honeypot's going to win it. Let me give you Steph's month of April stats before we move on to some good fantasy basketball content. Month of April, 35 minutes per game, 38 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 4.7 assists per game, shooting 53%, 47%, 90%. That's fucking insane.
It's the type of shots he takes.
It's the 14 threes per game and he's shooting 47%. That's fucking out of this world. Oh my God. But go ahead.
Sorry, just one more thing. There's the Bucks right now are in the 3rd seed, 37-22 in the East. The 76ers are 39-21 and the Nets are 40-20. There is a chance that Milwaukee gets the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed. And if that did happen, then I think that Giannis would actually leapfrog Embiid because of the amount of minutes and games played, much like with Joker. I mean, I sort of feel like Joker's going to win it, but they're in the 4th seed, like if they go into the 5th or 6th, like if they go into a free fall, I don't think that'll happen. But at a certain point, it comes down to taste. Do you care about the minutes? Do you care about the seed and the overall record? Do you care about the context of the team? The reason the NBA loves this is because most valuable player is in the eye of the beholder. It's not best player. Right. It's not most dominant, which Embiid would win running away. So it's going to come down to the wire, I think, and it's going to depend on every single aspect of the team and the player. So Steph's going for point leader. Joker is trying to propel his team, and he looks like he's the best offensive big man in the NBA. Meanwhile, Embiid looks like the most dominant player when he can play in the NBA. And Giannis, no one gives a shit about the Bucks this year. No one gives a shit about the
Freak. That's kind of right where they want to be. I feel like that's new for them, and that's perfect for them.
Right. The only expectations they gave for themselves, or the only goals they gave for themselves, is to make the finals. Yeah. Making the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't think cuts it. You have to make the fucking finals, and they don't give a damn about anything else. They've been experimenting all throughout the season. Drew Holiday is now the 2nd best player on that team, I think. Yep. I think he's better than Chris Middleton, even though Middleton's absolutely still awesome and efficient. But that team's still dangerous. And if the Bucks do go on a run and come up with the number 1 or 2 seed, I do think there's a chance that Giannis could grab his 3rd MVP.
It's saucy. Of course, all this MVP talk doesn't mean shit to you, dear fantasy basketball listeners, because you're not going to be able to add these guys off waivers. But who you can add off waivers is the whole laundry list of players who can still give you massive benefits as we approach fantasy basketball playoffs. If they haven't already begun
some
for you.
Leagues might, we're in one league together where this was the first week of the playoffs. Oh my God,
was it really?
Week.
Jesus, shows you how much of this league I've been paying attention to. It's because my team is cursed, Natty. It's fucking really cursed, and I just don't even care anymore.
I mean, that happens.
I'm winning this week, so that's okay.
This is such a weird season. Like, we sort of forget because this year isn't as weird as last year's, but this was still a weird season. And a lot of people got injured and lost a ton of games. I mean, there's almost no way that someone got through this fantasy season without someone going on their IR.
Yeah. Durant, I didn't realize, played 14 minutes today, scored 13 points. Well done, Durant.
Yeah.
Thanks for getting me 28 fantasy points in 14 minutes of play. Love it.
All right. Go ahead.
Let's talk waiver wire ads. As always, we have 4 different categories for you guys. We have dunks. These are 70% and under rostered on ESPN. Layups, 50% and under. Open threes, 35% and under. And long twos, 20% and under rostered. I will start us off with our dunk, my first dunk, or my only dunk, excuse me, my dunk. And that is I like this guy. I've talked about him a lot, I feel like, on the show. Jakob on the San Antonio Spurs. Over the last 30 days, he's been the 23rd player on ESPN Player Rater. In the last 15, number 6. You can add a top 10 player in fantasy basketball over the last 15 days for free on your fantasy waiver wire. He's 60% rostered in ESPN. In the month of April, he is averaging 10.9 points, 8.3 boards, 2.3 assists, 3.2 steals or stocks per game, excuse me. Over the last 2 weeks, he's averaging 3.1 blocks per game.
Wow.
Over the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That's why he's the number 6 player in the last 15 days. Miles Turner is the only player in the NBA averaging over 3 blocks per game on the season. So Jakob Poeltl is giving you elite defense, astronomically elite defense, while basically a double-double on the offensive side in terms of points and boards. 2.3 assists, also nothing to scoff at. Like, this man should be 80% rostered and up within like the matter of seconds. So make sure you go snag him while he's still at least mildly available in leagues.
I think blocks have been one of the stories of this fantasy season.
Totally.
Basically, everybody who has high block rates is fantasy gold right now. And I don't know if it's because of the increased offense, so maybe there's just more opportunities to block things, or if it's just because the front court has sort of caught up with the 3-point new NBA explosion. And so now you have guys like Pirtle. How about Nerlens Noel, who doesn't score at all, but is getting blocks all over the place?
Is still like a top 50 fantasy basketball because he just gets, blocks.
And they're becoming real like highlights. So it's, I think the players like to do it, and they're not swatting them out of bounds, which is important. You're getting extra possessions out of these. Watching bigs distribute and wings distribute, like everyone's assisting more. There's more passing. The ball movement has been democratized. Everybody is sort of expected to do all these like rebounds for guards, right. And I don't know if the steals have really varied that much, but the blocks are just, you can see when you look at player rating, like some of these guys are going nuts. And it's, my dunk is a blocker as well. So
go ahead.
Pay attention to the blocks, everybody. Okay, well, my dunk is, and all of these guys, I think, are guys that we've been talking about throughout the season. And this is because heading into the playoffs or in the offseason, these are guys that you're going to want. Derek White, not a boyfriend, but like he's on the list, like
he's a quick booty call for you.
We're in constant contact, absolutely, or regular contact.
Regular, yeah.
He doesn't reject my calls, and I don't reject his. We answer each other's texts.
That's nice.
Anyway, he's 63% rostered. Over the last month, he is the 25th best player in ESPN Basic Fantasy Basketball.
That's pretty good, people. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And he is the lowest rostered player of the top 30 over the past month as well. So good and available, which is pretty nice. He's rostered less than TJ McConnell, who does not start. Now, some of that is because Derek White had a bad or slow, slumpy beginning to the season. But he's been one of the best fantasy players in the game for quite a while now. On the season, he's averaging 15 plus points per game, 3+ boards, 3+ dimes, a block, which is what we mentioned earlier, and 2+ 3-pointers made. Only 7 players in the NBA can match or exceed those numbers this year. And it's mainly because of the blocks, but still, Embiid, Giannis, Durant, Big Cat, the Brow, and Bam, along with Derek White, who is a guard and is 6'4". Those are the only guys that can give you those numbers. Derek White's also the only one of those players to average under 30 minutes per game. So like if he was playing 32 or 33 or 34 minutes per game, those would go up even more. only 8 players are averaging over 2 3-pointers made and a block on the year. And that's also an impressive list. Big Cat, Jeremy Grant, go Pistons, Maple Jordan, Durant, Bob Covington, Kristaps, Michael Porter Jr., and Derek White. So those are 2 really nice lists to be on. A perimeter threat and a defensive elite player for one of the hardest stat cats and most valuable stat cats to get.
Yeah. And in the month of April, I don't know if you gave his actual numbers for this month, but this month he's been really great. 18.8 points per game, 3.3 boards, 4 assists, 1.1 blocks, 0.8 steals. So it's, 1.9 stocks, almost 2 stocks per game, shooting 3 attempts or 8 3-point attempts. There we go. It's when there's like multiple numbers. It's just too much for
Totally.
me.
It's
we're exhausted. It's a long day.
But also, steady minutes, safe minutes, just like with Pirtle. I mean, it's 2 Spurs in a row.
32 minutes per game through the month of April. He is just a reliable guy on the Spurs team that, are still playing to stay in the West, still making, they're the 9th seed right now. They're a game up over the Warriors, who we talked about at the top, obviously. And the Grizzlies, Spurs, Warriors, and Pels are all kind of jockeying for the play-in tournament. And so, and that's always good. I always like doing that in terms of fantasy at the end of a season, because, those teams care. They're going to try just that little bit extra.
Hard agree. The Spurs, even if they weren't the Spurs, they're still a team that is trying to remain in the playoffs and enhance their standing. They're not going to be sitting DeMar DeRozan or anything like that. Right. And because they're the Spurs, they do always try. They tank when they have to, but if you don't have to, they're going to play as hard as they can, because Pop and the front office understand that it's the experience of winning that really helps young teams. You want to get in the habit of these guys trying as hard as they can whenever they can. And they're also a team that has no problem resting guys. So the Spurs have 4 guys with extremely safe minutes in their starting 5. And and 2
of them you can get
White
off waivers. So
yeah,
you should do
exactly.
That. Yeah.
It's amazing.
All right, let's go to layups. My layup for this week, a man after your own heart, Natty. I'm sure that you are thrilled to be witnessing the brewing of the Isaiah Stewart stew.
Beef stew.
That's been concocted in Detroit, 40% rostered. In the month of April, this man, 24 minutes per game, 10.6 points per game, 9.3 rebounds per game, 1.1 assists, 1.9 stocks per game. He's just started 5 of those games during the month of April, which is great. These are minutes of him coming off the bench in a bench role, and he's getting you a double-double on 24 minutes. Yeah. Top 50 player in the last 30 days. All right. Players who are averaging at least 10 points, 9 boards, and 1.4 blocks per game. Natty, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these players. I'm going to take out the maybe the more challenging ones for you. Porzingis, Capella, Jared Allen. There are 3 guys left. Who are the other 3 guys who are averaging at least 10, 9, and 1.4?
Big Cat?
Yep.
One more.
MVP. Oh, no. MVP man.
Oh, Giannis?
No.
Or Embiid?
Embiid. There you go. And then the other one is the Stifle Tower.
Of course. Yeah.
So
boring old Rudy.
Isaiah Stewart in the month of April is giving you numbers comparable to Joel, Big Cat, Porzingis, Capella, Gobert, and Jared Allen.
He's a foot fucking shorter than those guys. He's not a 7-footer. He's
team.
Big Ben Wallace 2.0.
Yes, that's the crew. So Beef Stew is putting up elite fantasy production for a big that you can get off waivers. I snagged him off waivers last week, and I have been thrilled with Beef Stew on my team. Let me quickly track. I should have had this in my notes, but let me quickly track down who I dropped for him just to tell you the confidence that I had in this young man.
Dropped Luca for him. Hard agree. Got to do it.
He supports this. I dropped Gary Trent Jr. For Isaiah Stewart. Yeah,
another exciting young player. But Beef Stew is I mean, he's playing in a way that makes you think that Mason Plumlee will not be wearing red, white, and blue next season in Detroit. He's still a real young player, but you can just see the energy that he brings every time he's out there. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's a familiar type of player to longtime Pistons fans. And the combination of him and Sadiq Bey is absolutely fucking great to watch. There are a lot of good young Pistons on this team. And Beef Stew is one of those guys who seems like a blue collar player, and there's nothing but potential left. Like, this is his rookie season. So hopefully this is not a flash in the pan. This is only the start of a very steep upward trajectory.
Yes, exactly. And as the Pistons continue to, be bad.
Yes, they do. As
he is a future part of this team, like his minutes and role you might see that increase as we move, to the latter half of the NBA season, which is excellent. I mean, it's already increased drastically from where he started the year. And because like I said, what did I say? He's averaging 24 minutes through the month of April. On the season, he's averaging 20 minutes. So, he's already had a 4-minute increase for the month of April. If that gets, 26, 27, if he starts seeing, starter minutes, all those numbers are great. He's going to be a locked in double-double. He's going to get you defense. He's just been playing incredibly, and you will be reaping the benefits of adding him to your fantasy team. And Natty he's too thrilled. He's too excited because now this Pistons team is starting to look like, Killian Hayes is back on the court, making some sexy bounce passes. You're getting excited, Natty. You're getting excited.
I like what I see. I really do.
And how often can you say that? Not often.
Also, with Beef Stew, I mean, we just saw a similar situation with the clock blocker, Time Lord himself. Yep. I don't know if he played today.
No,
he might still be out injured.
He's still recovering.
But a guy who brings energy and stats off the bench and steadily raises their diet of minutes. I mean, we just fucking saw this. So if you like Robert Williams III, you should take a look at Beef Stew. There's no real reason for him not to continue to get minutes in Detroit. Everyone, likes Mason Plumlee and appreciates what he brings to the table, but he's not as necessary for the long-term future as seeing what Stewart can do.
Yes. Never slow down the development of your future, possibly franchise rookie center for Mason Plumlee. Sorry, no shade to Mason Plumlee, but he shouldn't be your progress stopper.
And, if you're the front office, then you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, maybe we can flip Mace over the offseason, but it's harder to do that when you just sit him down or, they wouldn't, I don't know if they would ask him to come off the bench. I doubt it. So they have to continue to showcase him and make him attractive. And you also don't want to ask too much of Stewart. I mean, this is a lost season already. So, running him into the ground isn't a good idea. We don't want to Tom Thibodeau this shit.
Right. No, totally. Let me give a little extra fantasy advice out there for people in the world. Mason Plumlee, 78th overall in ESPN Player Rater on the year. If you don't have a trade deadline in your league, maybe sell a little high on him. See what you can get for him.
Totally useful player.
Totally useful. Super useful. He's going to get you boards and points, but his role, if he stays in Detroit, probably will be diminished next year. What's your layup for this week?
My layup is another frequent name on this podcast. This is Mr. Safe Minutes himself, Jayshawn Tate, 47% rostered. 31st.
Also added him last week.
It's him and the elite stars throughout the league, like the all NBA level talent. That's how safe his minutes are.
Yeah.
Even for a team that doesn't want to win, it's like, well, shit, if Jayshawn wants to play, he can play. That's absolutely fine with us. He's the 31st best player over the past 30 days, averaging 12 plus points per game, 5 plus boards, 3 plus dimes, over a steal, shooting 50% from the floor. He does not take threes. Don't worry about it. Also, when Wall's been sitting, Tate's the main ball handler, which I like to see.
Yeah.
If he's on your team, you absolutely do. What do you like? I don't give a shit about the Rockets. But again, like more people are being asked to take on distributing duties, I think, especially with so many absences. And so Tate has safe minutes. The Rockets are giving him a long leash, and he has delivered all season long, even though that seems strange to say, but he's been one of the diamonds of the fantasy season.
Totally. Yeah. I dropped Thaddeus Young for him last week. And the thing that he does is like, you look at, if you were just to like glance at his numbers, you'd be like, okay, none of these stand out to me, but what's great about him is the fact that like there are numbers in every category. So it's like, there's even things that not stand out. Like you said, 12 plus points, 5+ boards, almost 4 assists, almost 2 steals per game. Like that's just in the month of April, averaging 30 minutes per game. It's just the across the board in all of the stat categories. And as you love about Derek White, who is a guard getting you blocks, Jayshawn Tate is a guard getting you boards, getting you defense while getting you fine points. And like that kind of production. Yeah, I added him. I'm happy with it. He's a guy who is, you're going to constantly get solid fantasy points and production out of him. And that is honestly, when you go into the fantasy playoffs, for me, those are the kind of guys I love to add into my team to, around the big break, guys who have really high ceilings and might have a lower floor, or guys who are off and on injured, if like the way we were talking about, I have Kevin Durant. It seems like he's playing every 17th game. Good for you, Kevin. I need guys also on my roster in my lineup who are going to at least just reliably get me points, reliably be on the court to at least carry me through a week where maybe Durant plays 1 game or 2 games as opposed to playing all, 3 or 4 on the schedule.
Totally. And Tate gets overlooked because of the lack of threes and scoring. So he's not an elite scorer like DeChosen, because they're similar, because DeMar doesn't take the threes either. But just like you said, Tate doesn't hurt you. He only complements everything that you already have. So he's not going to lose you weeks. He's not sexy, but he's efficient, 50% from the floor. There's a reason why he's been so valuable, and it's because he contributes to most of the stat categories and doesn't hurt you in any of them.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we go on to our open threes and long twos, plus a little DFS chatter, let's take a quick ad break. All right. We are back. Speaking of the Brooklyn Nets and all of the injuries that they are currently dealing with, my open 3 is a guy who's been benefiting from that. And again, open 3s, guys who are 35% and under rostered on ESPN. Bruce Brown for the Brooklyn Nets, 28% rostered in the month of April, 26 minutes per game, 10.8 points per game, 8.1 rebounds per game, 1.9 assists per game, 1.7 steals per game. And the thing is, we've talked about this before on the show, he's in that dunker spot for the Nets, which means he's scoring with efficiency. He's only has averaging 8 attempts per game through the month of April, but shooting 56% because all he does is dunk or take the occasional inside, shot. And so those points, you're always, he can reliably get you points with a really solid baseline, and the boards for, again, a 6'4" guard. I mean, he's averaging you almost a double-double through the month of April, which is quite a delight to be snagging down at the bottom of your waiver wire.
I love watching him. He's a former Piston. I really like it when he and Joe Harris are on the floor together. I just feel like the Nets play better when that's occurring. It's really funny to watch how the Nets use him. It does seem inside out, upside down,
but
especially
it works
because they have so many front court players. But it absolutely does. Yeah, he's a tough motherfucker. He doesn't have swagger. It's like he just presents himself like, I am an NBA player. Get out of my way. I don't disrespect the rest of you, but I'm just as good. Fuck you. So he's just a lot of fun to watch. And the Nets, for as much talent as they have, there's still all these questions about whether that can actually work across 7-game series. And I think Bruce Brown is actually going to end up playing more than we think he will in the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, I think for sure. Also looking at his basketball reference page, learning he's from Boston, Massachusetts. So a fellow Bostonian, you got to love that. I have to love that. You don't have to love that. You can hate that. I love that. Yeah. No, I'm just looking at their body types. Bruce Brown, 6'4", 202. Jason Tate, 6'4", 230. Whew!
Just muscles.
That man is swaggerly built. But I wonder if Jason Tate, like, I know that the Rockets are kind of, he's been ball dominant for what they are as a team right now. But I wonder if he can, like, in a future world for him, if that's kind of like, if this is what he evolves into, if he doesn't, like, if his jump shot develops and he can build something from outside, then that's great. And that I think will obviously change his game. But he also seems like one of these guards who can, as the NBA is constantly evolving and starting to put smaller guys in that dunker spot, a guard who can get you 10 points, 10 boards, pretty reliably. I mean, Bruce Brown, his last 4 games, averaging 13 points, 11 rebounds. Love it.
He's been on a nice run.
Absolutely love it.
The NBA has sort of reconsidered point distribution, I think. Like, they don't mind it so much anymore if someone's scoring under 10 points a game, so long as they're scoring those points efficiently and from the right spot. So, like, my open 3 is another guy in the dunking spot who also doesn't hit threes and doesn't even take them. Nerlens Noel, we mentioned him earlier. He's 34% rostered, so right underneath the limit. 33rd on the player rater, and he basically does the exact same shit as like Bruce Brown and some of these other people. Last 30, he's averaging 5+ points per game. I know, big time. But with a 59 field goal percentage, he's 8 boards, over a steal, over 2 blocks per game. Nerlens has the 3rd most total blocks this season, 118. And behind Miles Turner with 159 and Rudy with 165, and Noel has 200 fewer minutes than Miles and 600 fewer than Gobert. So just like you were about to say, like, oh, he hasn't really played that much. You're fucking right. And if he did play,
block efficiency is out of this world.
There are a couple of highlight reels going around the internet where it's just like him. Absolutely. I think Worldwide Wob sent one out. His blocks are great, but he's always been like this. He's still just 26, I think. And he's been an elite defender, but you just don't want him to have a heavy scoring load. So he's been perfect for Tibbs. Like, this is, I sort of wonder whether, they're even going to really care about Mitch Robb in their future plans. Maybe they'll pick up a different type of player if they can trade him. So I don't know, but Nerlens he seems like a vintage Tibbs guy.
Yes, he does. And he is someone who, like, honestly, all of his fantasy, like, he just alone for the reliability to which he blocks, how reliable his defense is, that in and of itself is worth rostering. And then points and boards are just gravy. And like, and totally. to the point where it's like, what'd you say he was for the year or in the last 30 for ESPN Player Rater?
He's 31st over the past, or 33rd over the past month.
33rd.
Yeah.
33rd over the past month. And in the month of April, let's see, he's averaging 5.8 points per game, 7.9 boards. So it's just like these blocks, his ability to block is solely sustaining his fantasy value. So even if he scores no points and gives you like 5 boards, the blocks are enough to make him a good fantasy player. And that kind of comfort in those like rare defensive numbers is so great for your team because everything else is gravy. If he does put on like against against the Pelicans last week, 12 points, 8 boards. exceptional. Like, that is great. Against Atlanta, he had 9 points, 12 boards. Awesome. But he also has, like, he played Toronto, 29 minutes, 1 point, 5 boards, but 4 fucking blocks. And like, that is plenty to put forward a really good fantasy performance.
And the Raptors are weird. They play bigs, I feel like, almost better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, they're the only team that Embiid says gives him a lot of trouble, or, you know, any kind of legitimate trouble. So the Raptors are something else. We shouldn't hold that 1 point against Nerlens too hard for that particular game, but he has safe minutes. You know what he's going to give you. And in the playoffs, what you want are elite category stat contributors. So if someone just gives you dimes like Rondo, who's available, you pick him up. If someone just gives you blocks like Nerlens, you pick him up. You're hoping that they have well-rounded games, but in the playoffs, all you want to do is win the stat category, excuse me.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go into the long twos. Guys, 20% and under roster in ESPN, and a guy who is giving you some production, mild, but some production across stat categories is, and I have written it out phonetically here, so we'll see how good I do this, Facundo Campazzo. Did I nail it?
I've been pronouncing it Campazzo, but maybe it's Campazzo. I'm not sure. The magician. No, he's great.
Facundo Campazzo. 5% rostered. He started the last 4 games for the Nuggets in place of Jamal Murray and Monte Morris, who are both injured. And in that span, last 4 games, averaging 6.8 points, 2.8 boards, 5.5 assists, 1.5 steals.
Nice.
Not a reliable scorer, but you're adding him for his assists, steals, and he does. This is a nice little stat for you too. Take over 5 threes per game. Since he's starting, he's only shooting 27%, but on the season, he's shooting 37% from beyond the arc. And so you would hope that those numbers, that percentage kind of finds equilibrium once again. But even still, he is getting you good steals, solid assists, and shooting a good number of threes at if he averages back to what he's been doing on the season, not a bad clip. And so that's always a threat to score some points. But again, a guy whose minutes are pretty locked in, especially with Jamal Murray being out for the year, and the Nuggets trying to battle and stay in that kind of 4th seed spot.
He is a rookie, by the way.
Also true. Facundo Campazzo.
I was very excited when Denver got him, because I thought that the combination of him and Joker would be amazing. 2 elite passers. But Campazzo, or let's just call him Facundo, he seems to be a rhythm player. There you go. Nice fucking job,
Campazzo. We're just going to absolutely fucking Americanize and butcher his name. Campazzo.
It seems like the more he starts, the better his shot will be. He just needs to be in rhythm. He's always looking for a pass. Those threes are there. He's taking them. So, again, another player who you're not as attracted to because of the point totals. What you want are the other stats that he contributes. And again, Denver fucking needs him. They're running out of players. So, Joker and Michael Porter Jr. have been on fucking fire the past month to try to pick up the slack. And hopefully Facundo gets into a better rhythm and his shots start dropping. And when they do, if they do, then his fantasy value will skyrocket.
Yep. 5% roster right now. So literally costs you nothing. If you have a streamer spot that you want open, if you have someone who you just popped on your IR, if you're in a super, super, super deep league and you're just looking for anyone you can scrounge off waivers, you can do not much better than Campazzo at under 10% rostered. Natty, who's your long 2 for the week?
Another frequent guest, Sadiq Bey.
Come on down, the usual stars.
He is another rookie.
Is this the most we've ever talked about the Pistons on this show before, even though you're a Pistons fan?
Former Pistons, yeah, totally.
Natty feeling himself this week. My goodness.
Well, this is what happens when you give minutes to young players, right?
This is what happens when the Pistons win a couple of games.
And same with Time Lord. When you give these guys opportunities, then they start filling the stat sheets. And with Sadiq Bey, who's 19.9% rostered, so right under the limit.
You just snuck it under. Well done. I approve.
He's been a top 100 player over the past month, and he's number 120 on the season. Now that, again, is as a rookie, and he wasn't playing as much earlier in the season. Mm-hmm. Over the last 30 days, he's 12 plus points per game, 4 plus boards, over an assist, 2 plus 3-pointers made. 38 players are averaging 6 plus 3-point attempts per game and have a 37 3-point percentage or better on the season. 38 players. Only Sadiq Bey and Michael Porter Jr. are 22 years old. They're the youngest on that list. And Bey is averaging the third fewest minutes per game of all of those 38. So he's young. He hasn't been getting as much playing time earlier in the season, but now he's here and he's shooting like a bunch of guys who are 70, 80, 90% rostered. He's tied with Donovan Mitchell in true shooting percentage. Seems good. Yeah. And he's not just a guy that can help you in the rest of the season. He's a great dynasty stash.
Yeah.
Out of all of the players with at least 130 3-pointers made this season, that's 33 players, only Bey and Patty Mills are less than 20% rostered. Sadiq Bey is 22 years old, and he's on a list where everybody else is highly rostered. His minutes are safe, Sadiq's are, and they will be safe going forward. I mean, he's going to have a 20-year career as a real 3D guy. So if you need 3-pointers made, you should check out Sadiq because he is highly available and no one is taking his minutes or his shots in Detroit.
Yeah. I wish there was a way for me to pronounce the difference in my spelling, but really Sadiq Bey is not just Sadiq Bey to Natty. He's Sadiq Bey.
Oh, I see. Yeah. B-A-E. Gotcha.
Yeah. It looks great on
My
paper.
Bey Sadiq.
It looks terrible through the audio medium of which we're recording this podcast.
Sad Bey.
Get it out there. Sadiq Bey.
He's Bey. Great. He's going to turn into he'll be the new Tayshaun for Pistons fans.
I like it.
And
I like those 7 attempts per game over the last month. Shooting 34% from 3. Not bad. And he's had 3 games within the month of April. I'm looking at his game logs. 3 games in the month of April where he's taken over 10 threes per game and shot 50%, 16%, ignore that one, and 54%. So just goes to show there are nights where he can get really hot from 3, take a bunch of shots, and can get you large scoring outputs along with, the reliable, solid defensive and rebound points that he's getting, or stats that he's getting you there. I like it.
22 years old, y'all.
20 freaking 2.
This is the type of dynasty player that will be solid for you for a decade.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Before we move to studs and duds, Natty, do you have any from the logos for us this week?
I do not.
Okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Cam Passo is our from the logo, our honorary from the logo this week. Perfect. All right, well, let's move on to studs and duds then. It's time for both Natty and I to pick one player who we think will perform above average in fantasy DFS this coming week and one who will underperform. We didn't have a show last week, so as thus our records are still the same. Natty is 12-6. I am 11-7. My stud this week, am going to stay with the Homer crowd. I'm going to pick a Boston Celtic because their schedule is quite saucy this coming week, which makes me very happy after they dropped one against the Hornets. But Kemba Walker has been playing pretty hot recently, and I think he's going to stay hot. The Celtics play the Thunder, the Hornets, who he dropped 20 on just today, the Spurs, and then the Trailblazers. I like Kemba to stay pretty toasty against that. And I don't think, actually, let me quickly check the schedule. I don't think any of those games are, there might be one back-to-back, which Kemba does traditionally set out. And so even with that, let's see, Celtics. Yeah. So Charlotte, the second Charlotte game is a back-to-back against OKC. honestly, Charlotte is the tougher matchup. If Kemba just plays OKC, San Antonio, and Portland this week, yeah, that makes my bet even better.
If Charlotte Kemba is the Kemba that gets to play in those games, then that's great. And if if Charlotte Kemba doesn't play against Charlotte, then that's okay too. He's not the straw that stirs the drink in Boston, but when he's on, they just look so much better.
So much better. Having that reliable third option, especially since Evan Fournier has just not been able to, play.
What a shame.
That's been a bummer.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kemba's last 6 games, averaging 20 points per game, shooting 34% from 3. Love it.
We forget how much fun it is to watch Kemba at 100%. He remains one of the most fun players in basketball when everything's tied together for him.
Yep. Who's your stud this week?
My stud this week is prefaced upon the fact that his team plays 5 games this week.
Oh, you're going for quantity.
I am going for quantity. Even though we look at ratios, this is just a helpful reminder for folks out there. If you're in weekly leagues, 3 teams play 5 games this week: the Dallas Mavericks, the OKC Thunder, and the Toronto Raptors. So if you're looking for players to plug in for the week and actually get volume, then you should look at those 3 teams, including this guy, a Dallas Maverick, my stud this week, Dorian Finney-Smith. He is a forward. Over the last 2 weeks, he's 3rd in minutes per game for Dallas. Kristaps has, an ankle thing again. He missed the last game. He might miss the next one. Who knows how many minutes he'll actually play when he does come back. Luka's a little banged up. And in the last 2 weeks, Dorian Finney-Smith has averaged 13 plus points per game, 6 boards, 2 plus 3-pointers made, and has a 56 field goal percentage.
Ooh,
that's nice.
That. Yeah.
The 5 games the Mavericks are playing this week are Sacramento, the Warriors, who, as we said, have a top 10 defensive rating, so that's not super easy. The Pistons, the Wizards, and then the Kings again. He gets to play Sacramento twice. I think that's a pretty nice lineup for the Mavericks in general and for Dorian Finney-Smith in particular. I think he's going to have a pretty good week with volume and efficiency.
I like it. And it's a perfect transition because my dud for this week is on the aforementioned Sacramento Kings. Because the Kings play the Mavericks twice, the Jazz, and the Lakers, which is not a great
and without De'Aaron Fox.
And without De'Aaron Fox, damn. Exactly. And so my guy is replacing De'Aaron Fox, and that's Tyrese Halliburton. That is just a tough 4 games to play this week. Yeah. It goes Mavericks, Jazz, Lakers, Mavericks. It was between them and someone on the Raptors, because the Raptors, they play 5 games, but those 5 games against Cavs, Nets, Nuggets, Jazz, Lakers.
Yes.
Yikes,
although
Raptors.
I do have a stud candidate that I'm just going to throw out there from the Raptors.
Ooh,
but I totally agree with you.
Yes, it's a tough stretch. But anyway, so for Tyrese Halliburton too, I just think that in the starting lineup means more minutes, but also means more opportunities for mistakes, Natty. And you're going up against 3 top defenses that could come back to bite you.
And Marvin Bagley's still out. I mean, this Kings season is a complete disaster. They're
almost like they should have blown it up at the trade deadline. One could argue, if
they even could. I mean, some of these guys, like who wants Marvin Bagley?
No, but you could have traded. You could have traded Harrison Barnes. They were fervent on keeping him because they thought they had a playoff chance.
And the Bogdan situation from last offseason.
Yeah, that was
It's just really tough, and they just look absolutely awful. And their coaching and front office has not covered themselves in glory, but Tyrese Halliburton fucking rules. So who cares about any of the rest of it? But I agree with you. He's going to have to shoulder a big load, and this is going to be a tough stretch for them. They're 24-35 on the season, and they're 2-8 in their last 10. Jesus fucking Christ, Sacramento.
That is rough. All right, wrap us up. Who's your dud for the week?
My dud, going big again, is Devin Booker.
Oh, baby.
The Phoenix Suns play the New York Knickerbockers the LA Clippers, the Utah Jazz, and the OKC Thunder. Booker's been slumping a bit recently. I don't really know what the issue has been. And I just think that's 4 tough games, even though the Thunder are tanking, like their young perimeter guys are still going to run up and down the floor on you. And you always have to account for Poku. Let's see. They're 42-17, the Suns. They're definitely they're not going to take games off or anything like that. They care about their seeding. It's possible they could get the number 1 overall seed, which would be amazing for them. There's a line of thinking that this would be Devin Booker's like best week. Like, fuck this slump. I'm coming out and I'm beating the shit out of all these other teams, including the Jazz and the Clippers, who are close to us in the standings. So while I'm hopeful that Booker has a good week and really gets to show everybody off, I think that the slump will continue.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Devin Booker, that is a bold claim, but sometimes you got to go big, sometimes you got to go bold.
Exactly. And I do have one more stud candidate, as we mentioned earlier. In Toronto, Chris Boucher is out with an MCL injury. It's not torn, but he's out for the foreseeable future. Khem Birch, late of the Orlando Magic, is now the Raptors' starting center. There's no one else really there that they want to play. He's 10% rostered. He's just going to get all the minutes in the fucking world, I think. And again, like we said earlier, the Raptors do have 5 games. So this is a volume play. Like you said, they're going up, Jared Allen in Cleveland, the Nets front court, Joker in Denver, the Jazz, then the Lakers. So it's going to be a tough assignment, but there's no one else there. They have to play Khem Birch. So if you're looking for interior presence, if you're desperate for a big, check out Khem Birch, because I think his minutes are safe, at least for the next week.
Yeah, he started the last 5 games for them. 8+ points, 6+ boards, 1 almost 2 blocks. Not bad. Not bad.
It's free production. So
free production and stats are just opportunity minutes make the world grow.
And I think he's from Canada, so maybe he's playing with, extra pizzazz now that he's on the Raptors.
I like it. That always, play for the home crowd. That's always a good sign. All right.
I did have one more thing to say before we go. Just wanted to point out that the Bulls are the 11th seed in the East and the Pelicans are the 11th seed in the West. And that's a pretty big fucking problem if that's how the season ends, because both those teams wanted to be in the playoffs this year.
It's true. I wonder if the Pelicans get real panicky this offseason and really try to make a lot of dumb moves.
Yeah, I mean,
they feel ripe for it.
The fact that Zion has looked so much better on offense and so much worse on defense, even though he's gotten better, it's just, they've had a strange season too. A lot of people.
I thought you were going to say the fact that Zion said that he wants to play in New York.
Well, I mean, I feel like everybody says that at some point in their career because everybody likes to play at the Garden, and it's New York, but people say they like playing in the Staples Center too. So New Orleans is a great town. Just because some kid said that they like playing in New York or that they like New York, you shouldn't.
The Pelicans are panicking. It's gonna be an exciting offseason if they don't even make the play-in tournament.
It's gonna be tough because they definitely constructed a team with that in mind.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Well, there you go. Make sure you subscribe to the Fake Teams podcast wherever you get your podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. That's how you'll not only get us, but also our fantasy baseball and fantasy football show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Long Two Podcast. We will be back at you next week. Natty, until then, my friend, stay safe and well rested.
You do the same. Get some good naps and enjoy this. There's 15 to 12 games left in the NBA season. Things are really heating up because of the play-in, so enjoy the games this week.
Amen.